Thank you for joining me for today's episode of the Simply Financial Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Calandra, and I want to increase your financial IQ with today's episode, which is the first of a three-part series I'm going to do. It's going to be called Major Indexes Explained. To set the stage, you turn on the news or you log into your computer and it says the Dow is up X, the S&P 500 is up Y, and the NASDAQ is down such and such. How familiar are you with what those three indexes are? There are other indexes out there, but these are the three major indexes, both for consumers as well as for most professionals. So I want to cover the basics and a little history of each of the three indexes. So when I continue with this episode in a little bit, we're going to talk about the Dow. On the second installment of the three-part series, we're going to talk about the S&P 500, and then we'll finish the trio with a discussion of the NASDAQ. So the Dow is shorthand for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It was created way back in 1896 by Charles Dow, D-O-W. He was a newspaper financial guy. He actually is the founder of the Wall Street Journal, so a little bit of trivia there for you. Originally, he tracked 12 companies, and his idea was it was confusing to track what was happening with all the different companies that made up the stock exchange. So he came up with 12 major industrial companies as a way to provide his readers with one number that would be representative of the overall health and direction of the stock market. For a long time, it has consisted of 30 companies. I didn't look this up, but you're going back 30, 40, 50 years, maybe longer. The Dow is the most prominent benchmark that's used. If you ask somebody to name a benchmark or an index, most likely they'll say the Dow. If you watch the news, the first number they're going to deliver to you is the Dow. If you look at a ticker on the news sites that you might log into on your computer, the Dow is almost always put first. It is a measurement of the health of the stock market and, more succinctly, the industrial status of the U.S. stock market. Some of the prominent names in the Dow today are United Health, Goldman Sachs, Microsoft, Home Depot, Amgen, Apple, and Amazon. The 30 companies that comprise the Dow, it has changed over the years. The longest tenured company in the Dow was General Electric. It was originally in Charles Dow's first listing, the 12 companies I spoke of. And up until, maybe 15 years ago, it was still part of the Dow. It is not today. Time has sort of passed that company by in terms of being a major industrial company like it was for over 100 years. So companies will come and go. They become big and they join the Dow. They become obsolete, so they fall off the Dow. They go out of business. There's mergers. Industries change. So there is a natural unfolding of the Dow. The Dow today doesn't look the same as the Dow of 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and longer. All of the indexes have this in common. They are not static indexes. They will change over time based on the composition of the stock market. So that is the Dow. The last thing I'll say before we wrap up this first episode is that the Dow is a market-weighted index, meaning the bigger the company by market capitalization, which is the price of the stock multiplied by all of the outstanding shares to come up with the total market valuation. In other words, you have so many shares outstanding, and here's the going price in the marketplace. You multiply that together, you come up with market capitalization. So it's market cap weighted, meaning the bigger companies count more than the smaller companies. That'll come into play when we talk about the S&P 500 too, but it is a true statement about the Dow, which again is industrially oriented. It's nicknamed blue chips. Companies that are part of the Dow are nicknamed blue chips. That phrase if you're familiar with it, has gotten watered down over the years because there are some big, important, powerful companies in the United States that are not part of the Dow, and you might call them blue chip, but the narrow definition of blue chip are Dow companies typically. Again, that's open to interpretation. And the companies that are on the Dow, they usually trade on the New York Stock Exchange. They could also be on the NASDAQ too, but it tends to be New York Stock Exchange focused. So that's the Dow Jones Industrial Average, nicknamed the Dow. A little background about the history and what it is. On the next episode, we'll talk about the S&P 500. Thanks for listening today. I appreciate your time. I hope you found this valuable. Check out the work that my team and I do at Elliott Wealth Management by going to our website, elliottwealth.com, and also subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done so already, the Simply Financial Podcast. Thank you. I'll be back with you on the next episode very soon. Have a great day.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of Osaic Wealth, Inc., and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Please note, the information being provided is strictly as a courtesy. When you link to any of the websites provided here, you are leaving this website. We make no representation as to the completeness or accuracy of information provided at these websites. Nor is the company liable for any direct or indirect technical or system issues or any consequences arising out of your access to or your use of third-party technologies, websites, information, and programs made available through this website. When you access one of these websites, you are leaving our website and assume total responsibility and risk for your use of the websites you are linking to. Securities and advisory services are offered through Osaic Wealth, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC. Insurance services offered through Elliott Wealth Management Services, LLC, not affiliated with Osaic Wealth, Inc.